One of my viewers asked me, what's a good deployment knife to take over to Afghanistan in my role as a scout sniper, as a U.S. soldier? And I recommended the Cold Steel SRK in the list of knives that I told him about. And it's pretty much near the top of the list. Maybe the Benchmade CSK2 would be another good choice. And for a lot of reasons, the SRK is an ideal deployment knife. I.e., one you would strap to your LBE, carry on your web belt, and also for you civilians just going on day hikes when you don't think you'll need a very large blade in the out of doors, much like I've talked about in my CSK2 video the other day. Sometimes a smaller knife like this is just the ticket. Now, that's not to say that if I know I'm going to be doing a lot of woodwork, or heck, for that matter, if I'm going to be faced with a lot of bad guys, sometimes a bigger blade would be nice. But in a soldier's context, it just depends what your loadout is, what your job is, because you can be carrying a lot of additional weight, and a bigger knife, maybe even along the lines of a Marine K-bar, might be too big. This is an outstanding blade all the way around. Actually a little bit more capable than SRK in a wilderness survival type mode, I think. I've talked a lot about the Marine K-bar. I have a series of videos out on it. It's another standard for a lighter weight survival blade, 7-inch blade too. Now the SRK is going to be smaller still. It has a 6-inch blade on it. But that doesn't mean it's incapable of some heavy duty tasks. First off, let me speak to its survival capability, because there's different aspects to a blade. I've kind of been interweaving them. The first thing is survival capability. What is it capable of doing in the woods, the great out of doors? Well, against a larger blade, like perhaps its cousin, which you've seen several times already, the Cold Steel Trailmaster, you can see that it comes up short. But the Cold Steel Trailmaster, that's a big blade. That's a lot of metal to take in the woods with you. You know, the blade itself, the Trailmaster weighs at, let's take a look, 17.2 ounces. That's not light. Whereas this SRK, how much does that weigh? I think it's around 8.3, 8.4 ounces. 8.2. So it is a lot lighter. Half again is light, but it's not as capable. And what do I mean by that? Well, a larger blade like the Trailmaster is able to split wood easily. It has a great swing, a great heft, nice thick blade, 5/16 of an inch thick, wedge-shaped blast through wood. Again, I'm speaking from my own experience. So the SRK is going to come up a little short on that. Also, at least for the width, because that longer blade is able to span the logs we want to process for fire and or shelter making. The SRK, in its survival capabilities, is not going to be able to span those large logs. We're going to have to kind of go on the side of them. Yes, I know, it's capable of doing it. I've done it with blades its size before. Kind of what led me to wanting to go with bigger blades. It's just less work. It's more passes I have to take through the log when I have a smaller knife like this. But that being said, again, our loadout might be very limiting on weight. And in fact, we might be lucky in some situations to even have a knife as capable as SRK. Now, it may not be 5/16 of an inch thick, but the SRK is actually pretty darn thick for a 6-inch blade. It's 3/16 of an inch thick. And I generally don't like thick blades for skinning knives, EDC knives, even a lot of combat knives. I think it slows it down, makes it less nimble in hand. However, for the SRK and for its possible survival tasks that it would be called upon to do, and utility tasks, maybe opening up crates, something along those lines, we have to use it as a pry bar. That 3/16 inch thickness is a good thing. I think it's great that they gave it that much thickness on this blade. Speaking of the blade of the SRK, survival capability wise, it's that nice modified clip Bowie shape. I like that. I always have. It's not a full flat ground blade, and I'll go ahead and use a Rat 1 as my pointer today since it's handy. It's not, full flat ground, but oftentimes the Bowie style is not. And, if given a preference, I would like it, but I don't think it will be at a loss or lose any capability in doing survival tasks other than its 6-inch blade. I think when we take this out and put it in clinical trials out there in the woods, you'll find that the SRK, given its limitations, will do quite well. I think it'll split well, it'll be durable, probably hold an edge well. And that might be an advantage it has over the Benchmade, also excellent knife. See my video review of that. The Benchmade CSK2, made of 1095 steel. I don't know about edge holding, but at least for rust resistance, AUS 8, the steel this one's made out of, is going to beat it. It's more rust resistant. AUS 8, however, due to its higher carbon content than maybe some other stainless steels, will rust. And I've had that happen on some AUS 8 blades I've had. Probably getting tired looking at the knife. Let's look at the catalog. Cold Steel catalog. There's the SRK right there. They always give them these ridiculous retail prices, $95. Street price for the SRK, I don't want to say it exactly, but it's going to be around 60-ish. A little more, doubtfully less, but it's going to be around 60. And it gives a little philosophy on what they want to do with the knife. Anyways, good thickness on the blade, good blade shape, decent grind. How sharp does it come out of the box? Surprisingly not too sharp. I'm not impressed with that edge. If I can run my thumb like I'm doing now, it is not a sharp knife. If you try to do that with any of the knives I've had sharpened, or I've sharpened, like let's take this Rat 3 for example, just because it's handy, there's no way I can run my thumb on that blade with any type of pressure unless I want to split my thumb wide open. That's the way a knife should be. To me, having your knife sharp is like having gasoline in your car. I'm not just going to sit in my car and look cool. I want to go somewhere. Same with a knife. I want it to be razor sharp. This thing needs some work. Now, I think it would be easy enough to touch it up on some steel, maybe a ceramic stick. Yes, I'm going to make those videos. I get all kinds of emails. You got to show us how to sharpen. I'm not the best sharpener out there. But what I'm talking about is using this Lansky ceramic rod, and I would just touch it up like so. I'm not really in a hurry to do it with this SRK because I want to take it out in the woods and probably thump on it some. So I might as well wait till I do that, and then I might even reprofile it, bring that relief cut back up at Fitzen's, and that way I get a really nice thin edge on it. See how that works. Nice blade shape, love it. How's the handle on the SRK? Excellent. And if it looks similar to the handle on the CSK, it's because it's almost identical. Speaking of the CSK, here she blows. Now, I'll probably make a separate video comparing the two. I'll just bring it in just very briefly for a little look-see, but you can see the handles very similar. But this is the spotlight time for the SRK, not the CSK. I like the handle. I like Kraton. I'm a big fan of it. I do think it wears, however. As you use a knife hard, this Kraton and all the rubber nibs on it are going to wear down to pretty much nothing. And if you really use it, the time's going to come, you're probably going to have to peel it off. I'm talking after actually many years of use, you'll probably have to peel it off and rehandle the knife, which would actually be kind of a fun project. Nice ergonomic handle, has a deep finger guard down here on the bottom. Nothing on the top, wish it did. Kind of, not really. Because this is mostly a survival knife with a secondary combat capability. And let's speak to that real quick. I talked about its survival capabilities. I think it'll split and chop well for a 6-inch blade. I think it'll do just fine. How about combat efficiency? That's another Nutnfancy term. And by that I mean, what kind of combat capability does it have in the design? Efficiency meaning in its size and at its weight, what can it do? I think it'd be a very efficient combat knife. Now, some of you guys will say, well, I wish I had a thumb ramp up here if I have to do a thrust cut with it. Well, I understand that, but hold it tight. That's a very grippy handle, and you have a bottom finger guard. I think it would be very unlikely you would come forward on that, even if it's wet. That's, again, an advantage of the Kraton rubber handle, is that it does provide traction even when it's wet, unlike some other materials. So 6-inch blade, I think it would pierce cut well. I think it would slash cut well. That really thick blade with that unsharpened swedge, which, by the way, I would sharpen if I'm just going to sharpen it. That way I can penetrate heavy leather clothing in a defensive encounter if I have to, easily. It will do it right now, no doubt. But it'll do it even easier when it's sharpened. It'll just be nasty. So, great combat efficiency. How about the sheath? That is a very good, another high point of the SRK design, in my opinion. It's that lightweight, Conceal-X is what Cold Steel calls it. It's a plastic, not Kydex, sheath. Has a quick attachment capability. Man, I like that. So we can slip it over a belt with a Velcro and snap attachment. Now, like I've shown in some other videos, that's a wide opening, and when you put a web belt on there, that thing's going to migrate around. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can put your pouches on each side of it and lock that pouch into position so it doesn't move, and lock it in that way. Or you can take some carpet thread or anything you have, maybe some 550, innard of a 550 cord, and just stitch it right here so it's the exact width of the belt you're putting it on, and you'll find that it won't migrate either. And I say that's important because if you're using this for also a combat knife, i.e. you might have to kill somebody with it to defend yourself, you don't want that to be sliding all over your belt. It's got to be in a consistent location. Also, the Conceal-X sheath has the advantage that we could use 550 cord and attach this easily to a Molly gear loadout system. And we could ride it upside down. And it's upside down capable because it locks in pretty tight, overly tight to that. You're going to have to use your retention strap, but I think the SRK could operate upside down. But only experience will tell. I haven't done it yet. And if I find out something, then I'll let you know if that's not a good idea. But my first choice would probably be putting this on my back right hip behind my pistol. If you're right-handed, if you're left-handed, be on my back left hip, right in there. But what a nice sheath. Won't retain water, lightweight, and that's just a huge advantage. It's lightweight. It's not like the leather sheath of the Benchmade CSK2 that if you soak that thing and you're humping, wherever, you're going to have to carry that water weight with you. That sucks. Been there, done that. It's not fun. Again, plastic and Kydex are the best sheath materials out there. By the way, looking at the boxes is kind of interesting. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. Look at that. Exactly. I don't know what that counts for, but it's kind of cool. So, good handle, good blade. It's a full tang design. I'd kind of like to have some metal sticking out here for impact use against the bad guys. Also for hammering some stakes, whatever. But overall, the SRK is an excellent knife from all indications. I might take this up to the Nutnfancy Knife Clinic, put it through some paces, and let you know how it performs. Given the 6-inch limitation, it won't be up to par on the bigger knives. I don't expect it to be. But I'll tell you what, it sure is a lot easier to carry, more compact, and certainly more lightweight, around the 11-ounce total carry weight. SRK, for the money, which again is around 60-ish, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a more capable survival blade along the lines of production blades. That's Nutnfancy. Expect another video comparing this head-to-head against the Benchmade CSK2 one day. Don't bug me, it's coming. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. Won't do it without you. Nutnfancy out.